Back at the table to discuss the hottest comic books in the world with Gem Mint from Gem Mint Collectibles. And at the list at number 10, we have G.I. Joe, Transformers, issue number 1, the first time those franchises crossed over back in 1987. Is the book on the list now because of the movie that came out back in June, or is it because of the Energon universe?
Yeah, that's right. They hit us with that 1-2 punch. Everybody talking about the Energon universe in comics, but they teased this in the movie first.
That's right. That Easter egg crossed over both of these franchises, and 5 days later, Void Rivals would debut, blowing the minds of comic collectors and 80s kids across the country. We have a 9.2 that's sold for $70. That's up 4%. The 9.6 is selling for $104. That's up 8%. And the 9.8 sold for $390. That's up 37%. And keep in mind, the record was shattered this month in October for $550. The last sale was $390. I think members who are patient could probably score this closer to the $300 marker, but I think this book is prime for purchasing sooner than later.
Only 105 copies of the 9.8 on the census, and that's 9 more since we talked about this last. We also have a record-breaking sale in a 6.5, which sold for just $17 in March of this year, up 165%, selling for $45.
Transformers 1, courtesy of Daniel Warren Johnson, Robert Kirkman, was one of the biggest IPs to debut this year over at Skybound. And with Duke and Cobra Commander inbound, it makes sense why people are starting to spec on this major key that has gone under the radar for years. Hit the like, slap the subscribe button. Gem, there's no better way the community can support what we do. If we're gonna battle the algorithm gods, we need them to hit the like button.
Hit the like and stay tuned until number 1 on the list, because number 1 is definitely your guys' fault.
Your fault indeed. Stay tuned. And at the list at number 9, we have Invincible number 1. This came out in 2003, courtesy of Robert Kirkman. This is the first appearance of Mark. It's the first appearance of Omni-Man. It's the cameo appearance of Adam Eve and so many other characters. A little over 10,000 of these comics were made at release, so it's tough and high grade. And the book, although is down, it's not down by much. Season 2 is fast approaching. They're going to be giving us 4 episodes of the 8 total episodes week over week for the next 4 weeks starting this weekend. And then they're going to take a little bit of a break, and then they're going to come back in 2024 and dish the rest of the season out. And season 3 has already been optioned.
And Kirkman has said that we're going to need that break after episode 4, so I can't even imagine what's going to happen there. He also did mention that we're going to get season 3 much sooner than it took to get season 2, so that's some good news. We got a CGC 9.4 selling for $1,545. That's 58% above its 12-month average. The 9.6 is up 21%, and the 9.8 is up 12%, with 5 copies outselling that average, the highest coming in at $3,500.
Hold up, Jam, because as of the date of this filming, there's an additional sale of $3,760. Considering that this book hit heights of just over $5,000, seeing it creep around the $4,000 mark in this adjustment period we're in shows that collectors have a lot of faith in this independent character.
Yeah, let's take a look at some of the lower grades where they were during the comic boom and now. The 9.6 had an all-time high of $2,500, and that's in the thick of it, May of 2021, where the last sale was $1,800 this month. The 9.4, even closer, selling for a record high of $1,900 in July of 2021, with the last sale being $1,545.
Not too far from the heights there. Next on the list at number 8, we don't have just a spooky book. We have a ghost key comic book to discuss. We have a Dell Gold Key to discuss. All the puns. We have Scooby Doo number 1 that debuted back in 1970, the first appearance of Scooby Doo in comic books.
Now, he was featured in Golden Digest 7, but that was more of a one-page puzzle activity game. This is the first full appearance in story in comics, and it's a ghost comic because it's so scarce.
There are no 9.8s registered on the census. There are 0 9.6s registered on the census. In fact, between grades 9.0 and 9.4, there are only 10 copies known to exist. You can't find this book anywhere, which is why when you see a high-grade copy, it always sells superbly well.
We've got a 0.5 incomplete copy. Centerfold is missing, selling for $279, 15% above its 12-month average. The 2.5 last sold for $494 in the comic boom 2021. Now breaking record, selling for $514. That's an increase of 4%. And then the 6.5, last selling for $1,827 in 2022, up 26%, selling now for $2,299.
To better illustrate how scarce this comic book is, Conan 1 came out the same year and has close to 6,600 copies currently graded on the census. And when you compare it to Scooby Doo number 1, there is a lonely 439 hot damn.
And speaking of spooky books, isn't there a discount code by that name?
Indeed there is, Jem. Over on ComicTom101.store, we actually have released our first discount code. Remember the 5th of November, because that's when this sale ends. You can use that code to receive 10% off of any orders $50 or more. It excludes the mail call and original art. But if you saw our Raph Grassetti Transformers number 1 foil, if you saw any of our Swamp Thing reprints that we dropped at New York City Comic Con, the New York City Comic Con drop has officially landed on the website. Use that code, get comics from us, and save some money.
Use code SPOOKY101 and get yourself some comic books. As we move on to number 7 on the list, another spooky book. It's Spawn number 1, the first appearance of Al Simmons, Sam and Twitch, Malbolgia, and the first cameo appearance of Jason Wynn.
We know that Blumhouse Productions has high hopes to see Spawn in 2025 hit the big screen. Five Nights at Freddy's recently debuted from said production company this past week. It cost $20 million to make it, and it's grossed over $130 million worldwide. These are all great signs that we're actually going to see Spawn eventually on the big screen.
Yeah, Blumhouse having a win under their belt is definitely giving me confidence, and it seems like it's giving collectors confidence as well. The CGC 9.2 selling for $70, 21% above average. The 9.4 selling for $140, which is 133% up. The 9.6 can't even keep up, selling for $89, still placing at 17% above average. And then we have the 9.8 direct market edition, 7 copies outsold the 12-month average, with the highest being $183. That's a 10% increase.
The newsstand 9.8 you can get for $800 right now. This book has been well above $1,000 for quite some time. That's an increase of 16% when you compare it to the recent 12-month average. Keep in mind, this is the company that brought The Purge to the screen. You know, they got their start with Paranormal Activity and Creep, which are some of my favorite movies of all time. I have high hopes, and I want to know your thoughts in the comment section below while we chat about another book that members are clearly very confident in investing in. At the list at number 6, House of Secrets 92, Bernie Wrights and Goodness, the first appearance of the Swamp Thing.
It seems like we're getting the original first appearances on this list and not just the first solo series. We've got the OG first appearance of Alex Olsen. The book has 3,000 copies on the census, but it hasn't really taken a beating from the comic boom. The 9.0, which has 128 copies, hit an all-time high of $6,222, and that's May of this year. The last GPA sale is not too far behind, selling for $5,744 in October of this year.
The 9.2, in which there are 72 copies, hit a record of $9,000 in December 2022. September of this year, 2023, it sold for $7,800. So yeah, a little bit of an adjustment, but take a look at this 9.4, in which there are 45 copies. The record high was set in April of this year for $15,600, and then June of this year saw a $14,400 sale.
Both of those books just $1,200 shy of its all-time record high, but check out the 9.6. Talk about weathering a storm. Its last sale tied its all-time record high from November of 2021, where it sold for $33,600.
And it's got to be because of the January announcement that James Gunn has intentions of bringing Swamp Thing to the big screen, courtesy of James Mangold.
Let's talk about this week's sales. The CGC 5.5 selling for $1,600, 19% above average. The 6.5 selling for 6% higher. The 7.0 sold for $2,800, and that's 18% above its 12-month average.
We have a 1.5 intro copy selling, breaking records this past week. Last selling in August of this year for $576, up 2%. Now selling for $585, halfway through the list, with Moon Knight number 1. This is the 4th week that it's made the Hot 10. Why is it? Is it because of the comic books? We have Moon Knight meeting his apparent demise at the year end, and a Vengeance of Moon Knight passing of the torch that's starting up in 2024. Could it be that, or just wishful thinking that we're going to get a season 2?
Well, we are in the middle of Loki season 2. Fans could be clamoring for that second Moon Knight series. Which MCU Disney Plus show do you think deserves a second season? As we jump into this week's sales, the 8.5 selling for $55, 2% above average. The 9.0, however, is up 29%. The 9.4 up 5%, and the 9.6 selling for $133 is up 7%.
Now, the 9.8 had 3 different copies outsell the 12-month average, the highest being $405 for an increase of 18%. It could be any one of these things, but also it could be the fact that the 9.8s are down $1,000. This right here is a book that reached $1,300 back in November 2021. It may just be a good time to buy an affordable, badass key book because it's so damn cheap.
And the same could be said for number 4 on the list. We have Web of Spider-Man issue number 1. This is the 3rd ongoing Spider-Man series and a book that tends to heat up when the symbiote books are heating up.
This book is so badass and it's so cheap right now, it makes sense that members are buying it. I'm looking at picking one up. The 6.5 hit $50, 28% up. The 9.4 hit $71, 8% up. The 9.6 is up 30%. The 9.8 you can get for $195 right now. That's up 13%. You can get a newsstand 9.8 at the price that direct market 9.8s used to be purchased at back in 2020, $495, and that's still 3% over the recent 12-month average.
Spider-Man 2 has been a huge hit, the fastest selling video game on PlayStation 5, selling more than 2.5 million copies. We recently found out that the upcoming Insomniac Wolverine game is going to take place in the same shared universe, Earth 1048. Another Marvel character that's seemingly tied to this universe is Daredevil. Back in the 2018 game, you can visit the Nelson and Murdoch Attorneys at Law office. In this game, there seems to be an eviction notice on the front door.
When asked about this eviction notice, the director of the Spider-Man 2 game said this: "That's a good question." He paused and then said, "Stay tuned." Could we be seeing a Daredevil video game set in this world sometime in the future? This right here has me super hyped. I want to know your thoughts about that in the comment section below.
There is a huge amount of potential for a Daredevil game. I feel like he can move similar to Spider-Man. He could be running over building tops, using the Billy Club, using his radar sense, and just imagine what will happen to Daredevil issue 1 if that comes true.
Number 3 on the list, we're taking you back to the Old Republic, non-canon Star Wars. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic number 9. This came out in 2006 before the Disney acquisition that essentially made all of these narratives legends, which means that they could tap into it, but it's not necessarily canon.
This is the first appearance of Revan, who would become Darth Revan. Now, XM Studios did an amazing quarter-scale set of Darth Malak and Darth Revan facing off. Incredible piece. We got a CGC 8.5 selling for $165, right about at average. The 9.0 is up 3% over its 12-month average. The 9.2 selling for about average as well. The 9.4 up 13%. And then we have the CGC 9.8 selling for $700. That's 3% above its 12-month.
This is an interesting book to spec on because those who played the 2003 Knights of the Old Republic RPG game know that this is a character that had such a big twist, I won't get into spoilers, that immediately made him a fan favorite, so much that they're making statues to this day with the Acolyte, which is going to take place during the High Republic era, coming soon. It's the next big show on Disney Plus as it pertains to Star Wars. This right here could be prime spec. There is probably no better character to source from those Old Republic days than Darth Revan.
Moving on to number 2 on the list, we have Wolverine issue 1. Wait a minute. Incredible Hulk 181?
Wolverine 1, first solo series, has been on the list 23 consecutive weeks in a row, and we've been wondering, where the hell has the leader of the Bronze Age keys been? Hulk 181 has just put itself on our list. It's official. The book is very wanted, but it's also more affordable than it's been in years.
It's been almost 6 months since this book made the Hot 10. 485 more slabs have been added to the census, bringing that total to just shy of 14,000 copies. The CGC 3.0, however, is selling for $2,600. That's 16% above its 12-month average. The 4.5 is up 2%. The 5.0 is up 6%. The 5.5 is up 4%. And then we got the 9.2 selling for just shy of $10,000, $9,900, which is 2% above average.
The 9.6 hit records back in 2022 of $3,600. In July of this year, a 9.6 sold for $21,000. The 9.8 hit heights in September 2022 of $138,000. The last sale was down by half, selling for $72K June of this year. Is this book going to drop any more? Is there going to be a better time to secure a Hulk 181? One of the books that people don't just want to spec on, they want to own and add it to their PC.
Now, this is a book that did not weather the storm, like House of Secrets 92, for example, and that census count means a lot. 3,000 copies of House of Secrets 92 and almost 14,000 of Hulk 181, which is why we're seeing such a drop from its heights during the comic boom.
If you want to support the show directly, we'll send you comics every single month. Every box gets 4 to 5 comic books in it, and one per box, we have a Spider-Boy #1 Tyler Kirkham trade dress. That is the first solo ongoing title of the character that will, by the way, connect to the December 1 per box ASM 37 Tyler Kirkham Spider-Man cover. Also 1 per box in the November box is Swamp Thing #1. This is a trade dress Lee Bermejo homage to Bernie Wrightson, first appearance of Alec Holland, a reprint of the classic issue of Swamp Thing #1. ComicTom101.com to join the community. The box is $35 a month if you subscribe monthly. We also have a one-time purchase if you just want to try us out, and we are officially open for international buyers.
Which brings us to #1 on the list, the hottest comic book in the world, and this is easily all your guys' fault.
No, absolutely. 5 weeks consecutively leading the charge. We have the second appearance of Kitty Pryde. We have the Dark Phoenix Saga Part 2. We have Uncanny X-Men issue #130, the first appearance of the Dazzler.
This book is making the Hot 10 week after week because you guys keep on buying it and are sending more copies to CGC. There are 27 more slabs on the census since we talked about this book just last week when it also hit #1. The total census count is now 4,478 slabs.
And between 9.0 and 9.8, there is at least one new copy across all those grades that have been added in the last 7 days. That increase of supply is meeting the demand. The book is up. The 7.5 is up 18%. The 8.5 is up 26%. The newsstand 8.5 is up 47%. The 9.2 selling for $266. Shout out Gambit for an increase of 14%. The 9.4 is selling for $475 for an increase of 66%.
But that's not all. The CGC 9.6 selling for $575. That's 34% above. And then we have the 9.8, just $1 shy of $2,000, putting it 36% above its 12-month average.
We even have a record-breaking 8.0 to report, selling for $300 in October, up 7%, now selling for $320. These books are being listed and they're selling so damn quick. And that's not all. The solo series, Dazzler #1, is up when you compare the 12-month average across all grades between 9.0 and 9.8. Hot damn.
Now, there hasn't been anything new regarding Taylor Swift and whether or not she'll be playing Dazzler in the upcoming Deadpool 3 Merc with a Mouth. She has been hanging out with Hugh Jackman, Ryan Reynolds, and director Sean Levy a hell of a lot. There has been some news regarding the Actors Guild that negotiations for the strike are going well, so hopefully we'll get a resolution on that, which will bring us closer to this film's release.
Do you think that is going to happen? Are any of these your sales that we just reported on? Do you think that even if Taylor Swift does make an appearance in movie, that long-term the book's going to sustain? Let me know in the comments section below. Help your fellow comic fan members who are investing and, as always,
Geek responsibly and stay minty fresh.
enough said.